Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event is really all about your child. And when parents put aside time to make their children's future first and priority, it really, you have my utmost respect. So thank you for being here and spending your time with us. This is how admission officers decide who to admit or deny, and the 4 questions that you need to know. So I'll be going through a number of things and to hopefully add value to your knowledge and really to put into context. But we begin with saying that college admissions is not fair, nor will it ever be. So I'll walk you through why I've come to this. But I think many people who've either been down this road, either with an older child, or even if you're coming up against it now for the first time, you may not, but you may know enough, like from a neighbor or a friend, where so many things are so much more competitive than when, well, at least if you're Gen X like me, when we were going through this process. So it's not fair. Now, what you may know is that applications have been on the rise, and that means that admission rates are on the decline, right? What goes up in terms of how many applications? It means that by and large, schools are not admitting too many more students than they were 10 or 20 years ago. The same-ish number of freshmen are admitted to, for a freshman class at a Harvard or even bigger schools like a USC. In fact, some schools have opened up their admission by 100, maybe 500 beds, as they say, 100 spots. But in comparison to the number of exponential growth in applications, it has not kept up. What you may not know is sort of why this is the case. So there are a number of reasons, but I'll share with you one thing that as soon as I say it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, which is this. If I said to you, U.S. News and World Report, most everybody knows that report. And they know the U.S. national rankings, they rank colleges. And believe it or not, back in the day, there was I think there still is Time Magazine and U.S. News and one other big giant in terms of magazines, and U.S. News was sort of losing the battle. And so this was an idea that somebody had to say, let's rank colleges. And it was pretty genius, because who doesn't love a good list? Who doesn't love a good top 10 Netflix list? Hey, holler, right? Type into the chat the number 1 if you like a good list, or best ice cream. Ooh, tomorrow's Pie Day. I don't know about you, but tomorrow is Pie Day, and my little son, Elvis, my 4-legged son, it's his birthday. So we're going to celebrate by having a piece of pie. So I'm going to go look up what are the best pie places in my local area. So bottom line is, people love lists. And the U.S. News and World Report became very popular. But once they started ranking colleges, guess what? Colleges wanted to get on the list. And so they started having to do marketing and all kinds of things that they did not ever do really to a master's degree before. So it became an industry, a business, if you will. So that's one big reason, and there's a number of things. I learned a lot about this when I worked at Vassar College. It's a liberal arts, elite liberal arts college in New York, upstate New York, in Poughkeepsie, New York. And then I took those strategies, behind the scenes strategies that I learned at Vassar, and all of the things I learned about the college admission industry, and I applied them when I worked as the director of college counseling at Marymount High School. Marymount is located here in Los Angeles. It's an elite private girls' school that the likes of Kim Kardashian and Mariska Hargitay and who's the lovely chef, DeSantis is her last name. That they all went there. I don't say that to impress you. I say it to impress upon you sort of the amount of resource that's there, and the amount of pressure there was for that head of school to make sure the girls were successful in getting admitted to top colleges. So I took all those things behind the scenes that I learned that I'll be sharing with you today, and we were very successful within the first 6 months of me being at Vassar. Students were admitted to Duke, Stanford, and Brown within the first round of admissions that very same season. But before I get there, you may want to know sort of a little bit what my backstory. That's me when I was a really young kid with my mom. And my mom, I'm a daughter of an immigrant mother. She had ambitions of going to college, but it just wasn't in the cards for her. Mom didn't necessarily advocate for that. So she really wanted to pass down to her daughters that college was not an if, but really rather a when you go to college. So she met Mr. Vargas, who's the bearded man here, when I was a sophomore. Unbeknownst to me, she asked him about how does my daughter get admitted to her dream college, knowing that my dream was USC, University of Southern California, which was my Harvard at the time, and now it's quite competitive. And we followed his exact instructions. She drove me up the 110 freeway in the brown Oldsmobile. We sat in his office, and he gave us the exact blueprint, which is what you're here for today, and we followed it. And 4 years later, I was graduating from USC. I went on to Teachers College at Columbia University, mostly because once I arrived at USC, I met many mentors and coaches and came across adults that encouraged me to go on and encouraged me that I was smart and should get a master's, et cetera. So years later, I also graduated from Teachers College at Columbia University. There's my best friend from high school who flew out to for the graduation. Since then, I've had just an exciting career. I went on, as I said, to work at Vassar in college admissions and then to Marymount. But after my Marymount days, I took all of the information that I learned and know in my brain, and I put it onto paper for you as my book, Be Committed, Get Admitted. And I've also had some fun times being on different TV interviewed, CBS and NBC, ABC, Chicago, Cincinnati, New York City, and Los Angeles. If you want to look up more and look up the TED Talk that I did in 2023, you're welcome to do that. It is called College Admissions is Not Fair, and you can find it on YouTube. There's also a number of free information out on my YouTube channel and Destination University. I bring all this up so that after today's session, you have something other to go to, that you have more references, you have more resources available to you, because you should not do this process alone. This is me with Gary Clark. He's the Vice President of Enrollment at UCLA. And so I'll give you two things that he said because it's remained tattooed in my brain. One of the first things I asked him was, I said, Gary, UCLA receives the most number of applications in the entire world. Do they all get read? I often get asked, by people like you, do they really read all the applications? And I used to say, yes, of course, because at Vassar we did. But I had an opportunity to ask someone in charge of the most applications in the world, and he said, yes, Cynthia, we do. And I thought, wow. So he assured me that everyone is read, every application is read, number one. And number two, tattoo this to your brain. When I asked him about essays and about the entire application process, he said, think less about what you think we want to hear and more about what you need to say. Let me repeat that. Think less about what you think we want to hear and more about what you need to say. So I took that to heart, and I really, we take that to heart and all the way through in our essay boot camps, and that's the philosophy that we do take as well. So there you go. Take his advice. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to give you 3 behind-the-scenes truths. I'll give you the 4 questions that college admission officers ask. I'll give you some strategic to-dos. And then after that, I'll give you the way that we work with students and show you how we get the results that we get over and over again. Sound good? Type it in the chat the number 1 if you're ready to rock and roll. Is it okay with you if I share with you some behind-the-scenes secrets? Let me know. Okay. Oh, from Georgia. Nice. Sophomore. Oh, Deborah. You might be Deborah, like down the road, Deborah. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get going. And let's see. Okay, who is this for? Well, you're either the holy smokes parent, you're either the now what parent, or the first rodeo. So you can type into the chat the number 1 if you're like, what? Like, how did it get so competitive? Type into the chat the number 2 if you are thinking, yep, we've done everything right so far, but now we just need help on figuring out how do we put this all together. Okay, that could be a number of you. Or if you're like my mom, she had not gone through the process herself, or or this is your firstborn, this is your first child going through this process, you can type the number 3 in the chat. Okay. So which one are you? Holy smokes, the now what, or the first rodeo? Right? I know, it's crazy. So give me some sense. And I saw juniors, I saw sophomores in that are here. So okay. All right. Let me know which one you are. I'll give you a second. I think there's a little bit of a delay sometimes, so I don't always see. But as you can tell, I like to be interactive. So get ready. Get on your chat. The now what parent. Okay, thank you. I too. Awesome. Okay, now what parent. Okay, good. Well, that tells me that you're doing the right thing. Okay, first rodeo. Thank you, CP. Okay, let's keep going. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So the question I start my TED Talk with is, should college admissions be fair? And almost everybody says a resounding, of course, they think it should be fair. But the truth is, the definition of fair is impartial and just without favoritism or discrimination. And when you really think about that definition, you can probably start to see how I will unpack why it's not and nor will it ever be fair. So this is what I learned when I worked at Vassar. This is what I learned about fairness. And it's all really between the public and the private school. You may not want to hear this, but let's just go through and review some of the things that I learned and I'm passing down to you. There are 5 tiers of school. So if we start with the bottom, the level 5, and work up to level 1, tier 1 school, we have public schools, charter schools, then we have our religious schools, religious-based schools. And then we have our private and then private independent. So private independent schools there's only 1,300 of them in the entire country. They tend to have a price range between about $40,000 to as much as $85,000 or more if it's a boarding school. So some of you might have your children at a private independent school, but most do not, right? Because there are almost 30,000 high schools in the country. So most are not those 1,300 schools. So somewhere you fall below that tier. So you're either tier 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, no worries. I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to do. So the first thing is where you go to school does matter. And as I unpack the next 2, it'll sort of make sense. But if you can imagine, the most resources are available to students at that top tier, meaning the most amount of money. For me, when I worked at Marymount, we had 2 college counselors for a senior class of 100. On top of that, we had 4 counselors, just guidance counselors, 1 for each grade level. So a school of 400 had 6 counselors. Okay, that's unheard of at a public or even a charter or even a religious school. No way. So the amount of resources available is significantly different. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that the relationships with admission officers also matter. When I worked at Vassar, I had a territory that's here. I had California, Florida, half of Texas, North and South Dakota, and Minnesota and Kansas. I spent, as big as California is, I spent 5 days, 5 days in Southern California and 5 days in Northern California. So if you can imagine, I could only visit about 4 high schools per day. So 20, and for all of Southern California, guess which schools I tended to visit. I was given a list. I was given a list of schools to visit, and they tended to come from the tier 1 level schools. Not for any other reason than, well, maybe to somebody else, but for me, it came down to this. When I went to visit a public school or, charter, a religious school, there just tended to not be as many students waiting to see me, or even a counselor waiting to give me some time to learn about Vassar and for me to learn about the school. So sometimes it was just more beneficial. It was beneficial to go to a private or a private independent school for the benefit of Vassar being able to recruit. So there are a lot of things. And it wasn't uncommon for me to get a phone call from someone from one of those schools throughout the year to just ask me how things were going. So relationships that are built between colleges and high schools do matter. They do come into play. So these are all truths. Don't worry, I'm going to say how you can combat all of this. Behind the scenes truth number 3 is that not all high schools are created equal. So sort of to go back to this theme, 95% or more of private and private independent school students are going on to four-year institutions, whereas at public or charter schools, it's typically less than 50%, with religious schools being somewhere in between. So again, there's a discrepancy of how much resources there are available and how many students are actually going on to pursue four-year degrees, okay? So again, all things that are simply true. So if you've been wondering, like, am I doing enough? Is this going to work out? Is it going to be my fault? Like, you're not alone, and that's why you're here. So again, mad respect for you carving out some time now, especially now before fall of senior year. What you need is some knowledge in a system that really works. And today I'm going to give you some of those pieces of the puzzle, and you'll be able to do some actionable steps by the end of this presentation, I promise you. So biggest thing that makes us different is that these are not like guesses. This is actually, we've been in this practice and in this industry for many, many years. We've been doing I've been in this industry since, the late 90s, but we've been doing essay camps and all of our workshops since 2003. So it's team-proofed and battle-tested. Here are two students. On my right, we have Emily, who is graduating this year from Harvard, and then we've got Jules on my left, who's graduating from Cornell. Very different stories. And briefly, Emily's mom, I had met Emily's mom when she was a sophomore. She was they were doing all the right things, taking SAT early. She was Girl Scout Gold Award. She was captain of her soccer team, 4.4 or 5 at GPA, doing all the right things. And then the senior year, mom looped back and said, I think the essays are not great. Can you help? So she applied the formula that we gave and was admitted before Christmas. And then Jules, she started working with us as a sophomore. And so she followed the process to a T. We call it the Ivy Success Formula. And she knew that Cornell was her dream school when she was a sophomore and went to visit. Like, mom took her to visit, and she, you might have one of these kids. You go to a campus and you're like, this is where I want to go. Like, that's all they can think about. That was me when I was a kid, and that was very much Juliana as well. Here are the 4 questions that you want to sort of take note of, or you can take a screenshot, I don't mind. So we're going to begin here with question number 1, which is, how do you compare to your peers? Well, how do you compare to your peers? What you might know is obviously the transcript matters. It's important. High grades are important. The rigor of your curriculum, how many honors, how many APs, how many IB courses if you're at an IB program, all of that is important. What you may not know is that the college, I would recalculate the GPA on a 12-point scale. So the GPA you see on your transcript is not what we call your admissions GPA. It's very different. So you may not know that. You also may not realize that your son or daughter is going to be compared to their peers from their high school that apply to that same college. So when making decisions on applicants, we were looking at what we call a school group. So how your son or daughter compares to their peers from their high school is what will end up mattering most. Okay. So you also may not know that what you need to know is the school profile. So if you don't have a copy of the school profile or don't even know what that is, Stephanie's going to type that into the chat. You're going to don't do this now, but you're going to Google the name of your high school plus the words school profile. So, for example, Palo Alto High School school profile. And if you're lucky, it should come up as a PDF pretty quickly. And if you cannot find it, you may find it on the website. And if you cannot find it, still ask the counselor. You want to see what's on that, because that is how your school is communicating to a college who they are and what courses they offer and all of the things that we need to know, where students from your high school go to college, what the GPA distribution is, etc. Okay, average test scores, all of that is on there. Here are some academic must-dos. You want to maximize your opportunities, getting the most rigorous courses. You want to understand the school profile, and you definitely want to build a relationship with your college counselor, because if and when they have connections with colleges, you want to be top of mind. Here is Ryan. So don't just take our word for it. Here's Ryan. And Ryan actually attended a tier 1 high school. Even still, his mom enrolled him in our programs as a sophomore. She just wanted him to get a head start, and she also knew that he wouldn't listen to her. So he took one of our courses as a sophomore, and then he had what he needed, and then he was very successful. He's now at Emory. Here's Cosette and Malik. Malik on my right was our youngest we call them campers, our youngest student in one of our programs. He was entered as a freshman, and he was smart to do so. So he got going and followed the Ivy success formula that we lay out for everybody, and became a peer mentor. And then later he became an essay camper as well. And he's now at the University of Virginia. The complete opposite is true of Cosette. Cosette was the oldest student in our very first cohort, because she'd gone through the process 2 times, being rejected from all of the colleges she'd applied to. She applied as a senior in high school, rejected everywhere. She applied as a first-year transfer student, rejected everywhere. Her mom was on a call just like you are right now, and she heard me say, students aren't rejected, applications are. And she knew that it wasn't just her daughter. She needed to figure it out. And then years later, she just graduated from Berkeley. So she not only got into her dream college that she was waiting for, UC Santa Barbara, but she also was admitted to Berkeley just by applying the formula that we use. So you'll see, and then Stephanie will pop this into the chat, that this is the way that you can book a call. I have 45-minute strategy sessions, and then also just 10-minute calls if you have a quick question. Question number 2, what do teachers say about you? So I get this question a lot. Should I ask a teacher who likes me? And I always say that's a bonus, but that's not really the purpose of a teacher recommendation. So what you may know is that obviously teacher letters of recommendation are required. Actually, I shouldn't say obviously, because the University of California, because some of you are from Los Angeles, the University of California and the Cal State system, they do not require letters of recommendation at all. So, and actually they don't even look at them. So there are no letters of recommendation. But many of our other private schools and other large public flagship schools do require letters of recommendation, both from a counselor and from a teacher. So you probably know that, but you may not know that the purpose of a teacher recommendation is to verify and solidify. And verifying the grades and the academic performance and the potential of a student, and also to solidify the level of confidence for the admission office. So when I'm reading an application, I get a sense of like who this person is, this applicant is as a student, as an academically curious person. And so that's the only goal of the teacher, is to verify and solidify the academic potential in a student. So it's bonus, it's gravy if they also really like you, but that's not the first criteria I use with my VIP clients in deciding who to choose to ask for a letter. Okay, I hope that makes sense. This is just a story worth telling. So I hope you find this useful. I mentioned that I worked at Marymount High School, a private girls' school here. And in our first year, I did mention that one of our first wins was someone who was admitted to Brown. In spite of what happened, we got this letter back in the mail. It was undeliverable. And so we opened the package to find that there was a teacher letter of recommendation inside that was going to Brown from one of our teachers. This is what we discovered. This was an AP teacher who had handwritten a few sentences on the actual letter, the piece of paper, and quickly filled it out. It was not a lot of thought put into it, or didn't seem to us. And so it was my first realization that even good teachers, or even the best teacher, top teachers at top high schools, don't necessarily know how to write a teacher recommendation that adds value to the application. Okay. So that's why for us, it's very important that we teach our students, our campers, how to acquire that letter of recommendation and how to go about asking for it so that you get the desired result. So this is Jonna. She was one of our early students in cohort 1 for one of our products for younger students. And she followed the Ivy Success formula all the way. She became a VIP client. And, obviously she did all the right things. And I don't know what she told her teachers. Well, I do know because I helped her craft all of that. But she got the desired result, and she's now a junior at Princeton. Same thing here for both of these young men. These are current seniors that we're working with. Ethan has already been admitted to Duke as early decision, so he was super excited to follow the formula. And then Mark loved the formula and got really good feedback from his teachers. He's been admitted to several schools already and is waiting to hear from the big ones coming soon. So your teacher must-dos: choose teachers who know you well and can speak to your academic strengths. That's my biggest piece of advice for you. Provide teachers with specific examples of what to highlight and a small gift of thanks. It can just be literally a $5 or $10 gift card. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. So if you want to be like Jonna or Ethan or Mark, please do think about booking a call. We can talk about a strategy that could be fitting for your son or daughter. Here's question number 3. How do you spend your time outside of the classroom? So what you probably know is that obviously co-curricular is what students do outside of the classroom is super important. And there are all kinds of things that you can be involved in community service. So one of the biggest questions one of the biggest mistakes, I should say, that people make is that believing that community service is like the one way that you can get admitted. That's not true. The other mistake, I think, is just assuming that a passion project, which I hear this term used a lot, is like the answer. While it's impressive, a passion project, if you're really shooting for top 100, top 50, top 20 Ivy League schools, it's really going to be something a little bit different, which I'll share with you. So not all activities are created equal. So if we look here, and this is something that you might want to screenshot, I'll actually give me a minute to take a drink and you take a picture. So if we look at level 1 leadership on the leadership hierarchy is school involvement. That's a level 1. That is going to be about 95% of the applicant pool. That's your clubs, community service, your sports, just being involved at all. Your school leadership is your selected or elected positions. So that's about 15%. Then your coolness factor is going to be about 10%. This is probably the closest thing that I think people call their passion project, something you love to do, even if nobody paid you or gave you a grade. You're just doing it because you really love learning about baseball or about history or having a part-time job or learning 3 languages. Impact project, I'm going to give you some examples. So impact project gets you to about 5% of the pool and then 1% of the pool for intellectual curiosity. So let me give you some examples. So here's a level 3. These 2 young women were both competitive dancers and also did dance at their school. Mira is a tap dancer. She's now at Berkeley. And Gemma is a current senior. She's been admitted to Northeastern and Elon and some other places. She's from New York. Both were competitive dancers and danced at their school. Okay, that's a solid level 3 coolness factor or passion project. Here is a level 4 leadership. So here's Sienna, and a level 4 is taking these 3 criteria. You may want to write these down. I basically borrowed from the Girl Scout Gold Award criteria, which is this. 1, you must solve a problem. 2, you must solve a problem for a community you are passionate about. And 3, spend 80 hours or more on said project. Boom, that's it. So Sienna is a good example of someone who was never going to actually get to level 2. She said, I am not these are not her words, it's kind of my words. She's like, I'm not, charismatic or anything. She said, I'm shy. I'm not going to, ever run for office. I just want a little project I can do on my own. Well, we paired her with, we do a pairing service that paired her with a beads of courage. All of the things were set up for her. She was just given the instructions to sew a bead bag, and it's a specific thing for kids with cancer so that they can put their milestone beads that they win at different milestones of their cancer treatment. Simple project. What made this an impact project is that she didn't just sew 5 bead bags. She made it a goal to sew 100 bead bags, right? So that took her over 12 months to do, chipping away, doing about 7 to 8 per month, okay? Something like that. So that takes her to level 4. She's at Berkeley, okay? Yeah. Level 5 leadership, in this case, Alexis happens to be a little bit of a unicorn. So be that as it may, she meets all 5 levels. That is not typical. Even Sienna doesn't necessarily really meet all 5 levels. She doesn't meet level 2, and she definitely does not meet level 5. But here we have an example of meeting all 5 levels. So the example here is she was a Girl Scout Gold Award, and her project was to do a 6-part mini-series on immigration law, basically educating folks on how to navigate the immigration process, okay, the green card process. So it's not only a level 4 impact project, but it's intellectual curiosity on a whole nother level of research that she had to do in order to prepare for such a podcast. So here are your co-curricular must-dos. Focus on activities that reflect your passions, impact, or intellectual curiosity. Be really clear and concise in your descriptions. But the big takeaway here is, I think people are surprised when I say the biggest advice I could give you is to try to merge something you love to do with something you have to do. Alexis, who I just showed you, once was saying, I want to major in political science and I want to be an immigration lawyer. So she loves, she loves to do speaking, right? She was also on mock trial. So she loves speaking and researching. That's a love. And something you have to do is show evidence that, in fact, what you are who you say you want to be. So she needed to show evidence that she, in fact, was serious about becoming an immigration lawyer and possibly the Supreme Court, all these things. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is to see if you can merge the co-curricular alongside something that is of interest to you for a major and or a career. Again, if you want to be like any of these students, I would encourage you to book a call with us and see if some of our programs are fit for you. Question number 4 is, what story are you telling about yourself? So what you may know is, obviously, there are essays that are required. And again, if you're a Gen X, please type into the chat X. Yes, it's me. If you're like me, you applied to college probably writing one personal statement. That was me. And I spent all of my time focused on that one essay, giving my all for that one essay. And the truth is, which you may not know, is this on the next slide? What you may not know is that today our campers report that they need somewhere between 18 and 48 essays, sometimes more. Just depends on how many colleges you're applying to. So that being said, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is that you may not know that these are the most common topics: community service, athletics, writing about other people, important people in your life, and then life challenges. I would say the death, divorce, the 40s, death, divorce, devastation, and an actual D. Those are topics to be avoided if you can. They're not always, you're not always able to avoid them, but it's really hard to stand out if you choose one of these topics. Here are, I'm going to confuse you because these are my 2 Amelias. On my right is Amelia from Texas, and on my left is Amelia from North Carolina. Both of these young women, Amelia from Texas, who says Colgate, that's her first choice. She reports having had she attended a private independent school, tier 1 school, had all the access to everything. She had a private tutor and sat in someone's office for 6 weeks for 2 or 3 hours with very little sort of direction. She said, I didn't write a whole lot for my essays. I just sat and I couldn't get anywhere. She took our class 5 days and produced 5 or 6 essays in just 5 days. Amelia from North Carolina, she came to us in her senior year. Her dad found us and said, I think my daughter's getting stuck. So again, using our formulas, we got her unstuck and she got into her first choice college. So it does work. You've got to know what to do and how to say it, because it's going to be at least 4 essays that you'll need to craft, to repurpose again and again. Here's our twins, Sean and John, who are at UVA and also NC State. Very different boys, but their mom just found us and said she really needed some help to craft their story and get them to the next level. Here are your must-dos. You want to start learning about the essay for sure. And what we can do is maybe pop into the chat before we're done today. We'll give you 2 resources that you can use. We've got a free 10-pack of essays, but we also have, if you're really wanting to go deep, we have another pack of winning essays for students who've been admitted to top 100 colleges, including many of the Ivy Leagues. So these are our to-dos. Just become familiar and read as many essays as possible. This will take far longer than you want it to, and far longer than you expect it to. Okay, so just inviting you to book a call to see if we fit for you. Here are some of our other success stories that I just want to share with you. We've been Zooming since before Zooming was a verb. We've been Zooming since like 2018, if that's right, Stephanie. Students started finding us from across the country well before we really grew nationally. So our students do come from all over. Okay, just so you understand, every year, and you probably know this or you've seen it, that thousands are denied every year, and your application has to make sense. At the end of the day, it has to be concise and cohesive and compelling. Otherwise, many of our admission officers will sort of just move on to the next qualified applicant. There are too many qualified applicants for anyone to sort of trip us up or make us think too hard. So I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. Okay. So think about, what are you doing now to set yourself up for success later? Very briefly, this is the story of the Texas rock star who was written up in the Wall Street Journal. And this was just a couple of years ago. She applied to 11 colleges. And as the Wall Street Journal reports, she was denied at 9 of those colleges. So a lot of the things I'm sharing with you today that I just shared with you in terms of those 4 questions, had I sat with her literally for 10 minutes, we could have avoided a lot of these rejections. So coming up with the right story, connecting your activities to what you want to major in. We didn't talk about, but one of the big pieces is coming up with the right list of colleges to apply to. Of these 9 colleges that she was rejected from, all 9 of them admitted under 20%. So having a list of colleges where the bulk of the schools that you apply to are, basically reach colleges, that's not a recipe for success. And no parent wants to, you can't unfeel or unsee what that feels like for your child when they're rejected 9 out of 11 times. So maybe 9 out of 99, you would let it pass, but 9 out of 11 is going to sting for sure. A lot of mistakes. I won't go into this, but there are a lot of mistakes that students make. No judgment. It is, if you're a senior going through the process, you've never been through the process before. So unless you have a coach or someone guiding you and saying, hey, avoid this divot, avoid this, sand trap, avoid this, avoid that, you're bound to make some mistakes. And that's the bottom line. So remember the school? Yes. A lot of things that we've been honing. And I have to say that our process, the Ivy Success Formula, which I'll share with you, we've been honing for a long time, because even when it was working at Marymount, I started to get phone calls from other families saying, hey, we hear you're being successful. would you work with our son or daughter who went to another school? So we really honed it before I really brought it to the masses. So lots of things that they had as a resource. So let me share with you. Is it okay with you? Let me sort of pause here for a second. Okay, is all of this making sense? Okay, is this helpful? Can you just type into the chat the number 1 or yes if this is helpful information? I'll just give you a second. And it'll give me a second to catch my breath too. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. Let me know if this is helpful at all. So thank you. Okay, good. All right. Okay, I'm going to keep going then. I hope that's okay with everybody. So I'll share with you just about maybe 10 more minutes and then take any of your questions. So if you have questions, get them ready to type into the chat because I'm an open book. If you've been here before, you know I will answer anything, and honestly. So here are some, again, here's Juliana, who you saw earlier, and Malik, who you saw earlier, and some of our California students and DC. So see more success stories. So really, for me, at the end of the day, it's about, I think about my mom at the end of the day, and I think, gosh, this is years ago when college admissions wasn't as hard to get in by any extreme, but she knew enough and was courageous enough to ask for help. So reducing stress and increasing success for families is really what we do really well. And I do believe that we, when we surround ourselves with people who are more ambitious than we are, or just as ambitious as we are, or whatever it may be that your child is dreaming of, then magic can happen. And this is really why so many students pursue the chase of getting admitted to top 100 colleges. I really do believe that it can change the trajectory of your life, your child's life. So that's a philosophy I stand by and believe in. I also believe that college is not for everybody. People are typically surprised to hear me say that. But for those who are chasing this dream, I 1000%. Going to USC changed my life and led me down so many great paths. They say your network is your net worth. So just think about that. And again, it's not really just about financial stability or, nothing's guaranteed, but it's, again, who you're surrounding yourself with and how you are enriching your life. Okay. So, all the students I've showed you today, they were not recruited athletes. They were not curing cancer. They're not the next Mother Teresa. They don't have billionaires' last names. They're just ordinary students put in extraordinary efforts to get what they want. So here's Jana, the day that she was admitted to Princeton. She was admitted to a number of other schools, but I had the privilege of being there on Zoom with her. Here's some of the students that you've seen here. Okay, so here's what we do. I'm going to just go ahead and share with you. I'm going to stop share. I'm just going to share with you 3 pillars. Because I just rather just look at you this way. So hope that's okay. So one of the things, there are 3 pillars that we look at for the IB success formula. And the first one is we take a look and take inventory on where your child falls on the hierarchy chart with the leadership. Remember, I showed you that hierarchy chart, levels 1 to 5, level 4 being impact project and level 5 being intellectual curiosity. So we try to determine where they are currently and then decide how we can be helpful to you and what we can do. We do have a matching program to get you to level 4. We believe that it doesn't matter if you're applying as a solid B student to some really solid colleges, but most students who come to us are looking to try and be admitted to at least one top 100 college. So we do believe that level 4 impact project is a key to this success. And the next step is we we go about the essay writing process by saying we are not going to concentrate on just one. We're not going to put 90% of our time and energy into the one personal statement. We're going to put our energies towards the core four signature essays. Who am I? What am I good at? What's something cool about me? And why this major? We believe that those four, if students can answer those four questions succinctly and in a compelling way, it's going to draw the reader in. The goal is to connect with your reader, the person who's actually making the case for you, the person who's actually ultimately going to advocate for your child. When you can make an emotional or humorous, or you make some kind of connection with the reader, then that is going to increase your chances just by doing that. So not just one personal statement that we spend 90% of our time on, but we really give equal time to 4 essays that we teach you how to repurpose. And then the third pillar is having what we call a sort of a bulletproof college list strategy. So we take inventory of all the data, the right data. There's a specific report that we use for every single college. We have that on a spreadsheet. We have all 100 colleges. What are the numbers telling us? Where do students who are female have an advantage? Where do males have an advantage? Out-of-state students, early decision. We really take a look at the data so that we help you curate the right list of colleges so that your child is successful. Remember the Wall Street Journal girl? That list of the college lists, that she, I'm assuming, got approved by her college counselor at her high school, that was not ever going to set her up for success. So little tweaks and little things can help maximize the admit pile and help to minimize the deny pile. I believe in denies for sure. All of our unicorn students were denied somewhere or waitlisted, and I believe in that, because if you don't get waitlisted or denied, you probably didn't shoot high enough. So we definitely believe in chasing your dream, but also being really cognizant of having a plan for success. So those are the 3 pillars that we look to see and really hone in on for you. So that's why we say book a call. It's a strategy session for 45 minutes, and let's see if this is a match to work together. We don't work with everyone. We don't say yes to everybody. It has to be a good fit. Your son or daughter has to be coachable and has to want to put in the work, because this is not hard. This is not rocket science once you know the strategy and the formula, but it does require work. So, okay, I hope that was helpful. So with that, I will go ahead and take any questions that you have. Again, pop them in. I am an open book, and I'm happy. Hopefully you can tell, I'm candid about, getting you the information you need. So go ahead and share any questions that you might have or thoughts. If you're in Los Angeles, you can hear the wind, literally. Okay, let's see. Go ahead and type in what you have to question. I can't tell if I need to do this. I don't know. Stephanie, I'm not sure that I'm live on Facebook. I have these little, I think we are, but I'm not sure. So we might need to check that. Okay, so I see that there are some of you on here, but I don't see any questions coming through. No worries. A good teacher waits long enough to give you time to ask your questions so you don't feel intimidated. Again, I can tell you anything you want. I'm happy to tell you anything you want. My sun is shine does not relate. Okay, so this is a good question. And A2, I hope I'm saying that right. If you can tell me what grade level your son is. So This is such a good question. And you guys, some good news and maybe not exactly what your son may want to hear, but the good news is he's not alone, right? This topic and this, I remember being scared to pick up the phone and call the movie theater to see what time the movie was showing. And I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Like everything is intimidating when you're a teenager. So you might help by first trying to set up an appointment that all three of you can meet, or your son and both parents and the counselor, so that you can sort of break the ice. So you may try that. If your school is very big, that may not be completely doable right away, but you can try. The other thing is I would get my book. And I only say that because there's a couple of the first tales in the first chapter. It just says, like, stop by, say hello, like break the ice easily and slowly. So those are things that can be helpful. The thing that I'm going to say, I'm not sure if he can hear me or if he's there, but I'll say this for everybody. And again, I say everything with you with a lot of candor, a lot of just honesty, because you need to hear it, but with a whole lot of love. I hope you feel that. And that is this process does not reward the humble. And so that's probably the bad news. The good news is it can be sort of learned, or your son can get better with a little bit over time. And you can help him, and so you can do some things. I'm telling you, get the book and just have him read it. It'll give him some little tips along the way, little things that he can do. But that's a big thing. I happen to I happen to be, I think, pretty extroverted. I was a cheerleader, so I tend to attract those types. But even those who are sort of charismatic or charming or all the things that you think, sometimes it's a matter of getting them to really own their accomplishments. So anyway, enough on my soapbox, but yeah. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Maybe not everything you wanted to hear. Let's go on to, let's see. What is a good summer strategy to help a rising junior? Oh, okay. A rising junior. Ooh, okay. First of all, hi, Deb. Okay. So, first of all, I love summer programs. I'm not sure if you're talking about the ones that they will apply to or not, but summer programs, you get a chance. First of all, you get a chance to use that application. If you're applying where somewhere that needs an essay, you get a chance to practice your story. So even with my VIP clients, I've been working with a couple that applied. One, he just got into one of the Wharton programs, and another one, she's practicing her, she's applying to pre-med summer programs. And I will tell you, quite frankly, usually the first draft, the first go of an essay that someone applies to, for a summer program, I'm always like, nope, this is not good enough. Do this, do that, do whatever. I had a student who applied to a summer program a year ago and didn't get it. And the dad was surprised. She was a client of mine, and said, will you take a look? And I said, sure. And once I read it, I said, why didn't you get my help? Like, that's what I'm here for. And I gave them some really candid feedback as to why it didn't work. It was so clear to me why the application didn't work and she didn't get admitted. Well, that same student never did that mistake again. And she just was recently admitted to Stanford. So it was a good practice. So anyway, so that's one of the side stories. Definitely apply. What can you do? Remember, keep thinking of what I said, merging something you love to do with something you have to do. So try to think about either, in this case, spending the summer doing something you love to do, or something you have to do. So I'm not a huge fan of using the summer for academic classes, like going to summer school at your school or community college, actually going to school because you're in school all year. But summer programs that you can test out, like, do I like engineering? Do I like robotics? Do I love writing? Do I love acting? Like, try to do a summer program like that. And or try to create your own impact project. I mean, become a content creator instead of a content consumer. Start a business. blow up your lemonade stand, start selling shoes on eBay, like a number of things today. In today's society, you can literally do anything. So start thinking about what your your son or daughter's impact project would be, and start to lay the groundwork for that. Like that's a great use of time, like in my opinion. So, okay, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if that was helpful. Do we help homeschoolers? So yes, we do. So in all honesty, we don't specialize in that. And I can't think, I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody who specializes in that. The thing with homeschooling is there's so many layers to this. There was, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, there's typically someone in the admission office that oversees homeschooling students. Okay. And so the thing about homeschooling is that there's typically not a school profile. So there's like, how do you compare? So there's a lot of sort of hoops to jump through. I would recommend contacting the colleges that your son or daughter plans to apply to, and to ask them straight up, what are your procedures? What are things that we should think about or know in advance? Things like that. Okay. So I remember really early days when it was, and I don't know if this is your situation, but it was like a parent teaching the kid. And so, you always thought like, well, of course the mom is going to give the kid straight A's. So in a lot of ways, we often this is back then. So again, contact your colleges. We would rely mostly on not totally, but test scores, meaning AP test scores. Like did the kid take an AP exam at the end of the year, or literally test scores, ACT, SAT. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Let's see. All right. Anybody else in the room have a question? Oh man, I'm running out of battery. I have too little. Probably gonna have to unplug my speaker, I guess, or my microphone in a second. Okay. Anybody else? Do me one more favor, and that is type into the chat the number 1 to 10. Tell me if this tonight was helpful on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not helpful at all, and 10 being super helpful. And I'm not asking for my ego. I'm asking because each week, if you've caught this presentation before, you've seen it. I've done different iterations each week just to try and fine tune it and give you really value. So give me a 1 to 10 to tell me how helpful you found tonight. I would be grateful. Okay. Okay. Thanks, CP. CP, I've seen you here before, I think, right? Okay. As you're typing in those numbers, thank you, CP. As you're typing in those numbers, the thing that's helpful for you, this is helpful feedback for me. The thing that's helpful for you is if you actually take a minute before you hop off to write down one action step you're going to take in the next 24 hours and commit to it. Okay. So write in the chat one thing you will commit to doing in the next 24 hours. It might be finding the school profile. It might be contacting the counselor. It might be looking at your child's transcript or GPA, So what is it that you will commit to doing in the next 24 hours? Okay. Okay, good. Oh, Deb. Oh, that's a score. Okay. I would love to know, Deb, if you can offer what would have made it a 10. I'm not looking to get a 10 always, but a 7, I'm like, that's not great. So what would have made it, a more of a 9? Okay. This is not my first child to go through the past, so I wanted to learn about current trends. Oh, current trends. That's going to be another session. Yeah. It might even be next week. I forget our rotation, but this presentation is every other Thursday. And then in between, we do different topics. We did defer, deny. We did B students so far. And I want to say the one that's coming up is the 2025 trends, what my predictions are. So stay tuned for that one. That's a new topic. New topic. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. And again, no worries. Okay. I'm going to hop off for two reasons. One, because it's time for me to take Elvis out. So happy birthday to Elvis tomorrow. And two, literally my battery's running out. So I had a private client just before you guys. So battery's running out. Okay, everyone. So glad to meet you and to have you here. Again, thank you for taking time to help your child get from where they are to where they want to be by senior year. So really helpful. Again, remember, students are not rejected, applications are, and we hope to see you on the other side. Please book a call. Happy to strategize with you. Okay. All right, everyone. Bye for now.